Hello, good day. This is Dr. Don Charles. Welcome to my course, Day Trading Stocks. This lecture will give you an example about how to apply fundamental analysis. So the outline for this lecture highlights that we will receive a practical example of how to perform fundamental analysis to decide what stocks to trade. So the tools I rely heavily on to perform my analysis are Yahoo Finance, FinViz, and TradingView. So let's start by going to Yahoo Finance. So when I trade stocks, I tend to have a directional bias. I prefer to go long. I prefer to place orders to buy stocks. Now, it is possible to place short orders. To short means to sell. So if a person short sold an asset, they would have sold the asset first, then the order would be open. Then they would only close the order when they bought back the asset. I tend to practice short selling when I'm trading currency pairs. Currency pairs is another name for Forex. I also practice short selling when I trade commodities. However, when I am trading stocks, I generally tend to have a bias to go long. I prefer to buy stocks and then wait for the price to go up. This is just my preference for the stock market. This is not a general rule that must be applied by everyone. So we're looking at stocks. The first thing I do is I look for the most active gainers. So I go down to the most active gainers. These are the most active gainers. So I click here. So I have a series of other screens open here. These are the most active gainers. So we can see NOKPF, North Airlines Public Company Limited. They were among the most active gainers. They received a 45% increase. You have GCPEF, GCL, Poly Energy Holdings Limited. They experienced a 26% increase. AMC Entertainment Holdings Inc. They received a 20% increase. So these are the tickers. Recall the tickers are the symbols for the company. These are the company names, and this is the percent change. So my first criteria to decide if to buy any stock is to look at the most active gainers. These stocks already make the first criteria. So the next criteria is to look at the relative volume. So to go to relative volume, let's go to another platform. Let's go to FinViz. The stock is trading high. Well, the price kind of low here. I wouldn't trade the stock off the board. I wouldn't trade the stock. Why? Because of the price here. This is a penny stock. The price of this stock is less than $1. This is 20 cents. I don't trade penny stocks, so I wouldn't consider this at all. So let's look at AMC. AMC is trading at roughly $12.77. I want the relative volume. Let's look for the relative volume for AMC. AMC. Relative volume. So the relative volume is 3.32. So the relative volume is greater than number 2. So this means that this stock is trading 3.2 times higher than what it normally trades at, which is very good. Let's look at the float. So the float is 417 million. The shares outstanding is 436 million. So it doesn't really look like it has a low float. Let's go back on Yahoo Finance and look at the float. Float is 470 million. So the full float aligned between two websites. The float is 417 million. Float is 417 million. Shares outstanding 450. So there's inconsistencies between the two websites for the shares outstanding. Here it says on Yahoo Finance, it says the shares outstanding is 450 million. Here, the shares outstanding is 436 million. So this is something I want you to note when trading stocks. When you go to the different platforms, the free tools, Yahoo Finance, FinViz, or to TradingView, sometimes you get inconsistent information regarding the indicators. So I just want you to be aware of this. So the float is not very low. If the float was low, then this means there's a very tight supply. Basically, if the supply is tight, then any increases in demand can cause a large increase in price. That's the demand and supply economics, but the float wasn't very low. So this stock is definitely meeting the third criteria. The fourth criteria is the news. Let's look at the news. So summary, news. AMC stock pops by nearly 25%. Why is this news looking like this? AMC stocks pop nearly 24% as more cash flows in. Let's look at the chart to see what the stocks look like. The stocks didn't go down, the stocks went up. So that headline had to be off, the headline had to be old. Why AMC Entertainment stock was soaring today? There was no news about the movie theater operator, yet the stock prices went up. GameStop, another popular meme stock, has gained 4.7%. So apparently the stock price went up, but there's no reason why. So what I would do, I would add this stock to my watch list. So I'll go here, EMC, add portfolio, add to my watch list. When I add this stock to my watch list, I will be able to monitor the performance of this stock over a period of time. So let's just go to the watch list. So to go to the watch list, go here. These are the stock on my watch list. You see AMC is going up still. I'll just monitor this. So we haven't found a stock to meet our criteria yet. So let's go to another stock. MPLN, Multiplan Corporation. Their stock price is selling at $7. Their stock is up by 16%. So to find the relative volume, I am going on FinViz. Relative volume. So your relative volume is greater than 2. The relative volume is 2.77. So this stock is trading at 2.77 times than what it normally trades at. The float, 257 million. Shares outstanding is 470. So you see inconsistencies here between the shares outstanding. So it shows here the shares outstanding is 470. Shares outstanding. Shares outstanding is 668. Shares outstanding is 470. So there's inconsistencies between the two websites, between the shares outstanding for this stock, MPLN. So I'm not really making too much of an issue of that. So the first criteria was met. This stock was trading high on, this stock was among the most active gainers. The second criteria was met. It had a high relative volume. The third criteria is the low float. So we see here the float. The float was about half of the total amount of shares outstanding. So the float was relatively low enough. The fourth criteria is the news. Let's look at the news. So go back to Yahoo Finance. Let's look for news. Let's look at the earnings. Revenues of 254 million, net income of 45 million. So this company is looking profitable. Today, they reported financial results for the first quarter ending March 31st, 2021. So when they reported this, when is this article dated? This article was dated the 13th of May. So this article came out yesterday. Today is the 14th of May. So basically, the reason why this company stock price is going up is because it reported positive financial results. It reported positive earnings, positive profits. Despite the ongoing effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, our business, both revenue and adjusted earnings before interest and tax for the first quarter were in line with the prior quarter and expectations we communicated earlier this year, underscoring the recurring nature of our business and positioning us to maintain momentum in 2021. All right, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, what they're saying is that they're profitable. So this stock meets my fourth criteria. So I would be interested in buying this stock. I'm closing the news here. So let's look for entry points. So the stock price right now is $4.15. We have a resistance here at roughly $4.72. And we have a support here at $6.15. So let's look for an entry point. So to find the charts, we go to trading view, MPLN. Click full feature chart. Let's put on some indicators, add some Bollinger Bands. Okay, this stock would have met one of my criteria. So I like to trade stocks on the Bollinger Bands. The Bollinger Bands is when the stock go to the Bollinger Bands, the end of the Bollinger Bands, and bounce off the Bollinger Bands. So we see here, the stock price went down some time ago up to the, let's say, the 12th of May, to the Bollinger Band, well, it almost hit the Bollinger Band and then went back up. Not only that, there's a price crossover occurring right here. A moving average crossover will occur very soon. This blue line here is the 9-point exponential moving average. And this is the price. We see here, let me zoom in. So you can see it clearly. So there's a price crossover occurring right here. I like the setup. I'll go long. So let's assume that we place an order here. I'll place a stop loss here. The stop loss will go just below the Bollinger Band. But I'll need to get a 1-to-1, at least a 1-to-1 win to loss ratio. Because if I leave it like this, then if the trade turns into a loss, the amount I'll lose will be greater than the amount I could potentially win. So I'll carry up the price to here. I want at least a 1-to-1 win to loss ratio. Now, if you look here, here's resistance, here's support. How do I know here's resistance? Here's a higher high. How do we know here's a support? Here's a lower low. So this is a peak, this is a trough. Ideally, I will prefer to buy stock like somewhere around here, but we already missed this entry point. I'll place an order here and wait for the stock price to go up. Mind you, when this trade goes into profit, I'll move the stop loss. So let's say this trade go into profit to $7.50. I'll move the stop loss from this point here from $5.88 to about the break even. So when the price of the asset moves to this point here, I'll move the stop loss from this area here to break even. And as the trade goes into greater profit, I will gradually increase my stop loss. So basically what I'll be doing, I'll be implementing a trailing stop strategy. Note in my video series, A Practical Introduction to Day Trading, I explain what is a stop loss and what is a trailing stop. So you can go back and review the course and you can actually see what is a stop loss. You can see what is a trailing stop. For those that don't remember what these things are. So this is one stock I'll be interested in trading for today. So the next stock we can look at is SI, Silvergate Capital Corporation. This stock is up by 13%. Let's look at the stock. Silvergate Capital Corporation, the stock price is going up. So the first thing I want to see is the relative volume. So let me look for the relative volume. SI, type in the ticker, SI, click. This is the company, SI, that's ticker. This is the company, Silvergate Capital Corporation. Let's look at the relative volume. The relative volume is 3.8. So the relative volume suggests that this stock is trading 3.8 times higher than normal. So there's a high demand for this stock. Let's look at the float. Well, the float is not all that low. How do you know the float is not all that low? The total shares outstanding is 18 million. However, the float is 16 million. So the float is not even half. So let's look at the stock here. Float. So we see inconsistencies between the float because the float here is 22 million, but when you go to Finviz, Finviz is telling us that the float is 60 million. So 60 million here versus 22 million here. So there's inconsistencies between the two websites for information, but we're not really too paying attention to the inconsistencies. We just want a general idea. Basically, what it's telling us is that the float is not very low. So it make criteria 1, the stock prices was going up. It make criteria 2, in terms of there's a high relative volume, so there's high demand, and fail criteria 3. Criteria 3 was therefore to be a low float. Let's look at criteria 4, the news. There must be a reason why the stock price is going up. The shares of crypto bank Silvergate Capital traded 16.5% higher of 11:05 a.m. today after the company announced a new partnership with Facebook yesterday. Okay. Basically, what this means is that this company is getting more commerce. This company is now getting more business. And Facebook is a very popular website. So if this company is issuing a cryptocurrency for Facebook, then this company should get more commerce. This company should get more sales. This company should become more profitable. So this explains why this company price is going up. So because of the news, because of the 4 criteria, I'll be interested in buying this stock. So let's look at the charts. So this is the ticker here, SI, Silvergate Capital Corporation. This is a 9-point exponential moving average. Let's add some Bollinger Bands. Okay, so the price just touched the Bollinger Bands and then went back up. Let's add another indicator. Let's add the RSI. Note when I typed in R, we see the relative strength index appeared at once. This is because this indicator is very popular. So we see the RSI here. So this is a very good buy. Why? Because the RSI went below 30. When the RSI went below 30, it suggests that the stock price is oversold, meaning that the stock price has become too low. We see the stock price went below the Bollinger Band here. We see the stock price just touched the Bollinger Band here. And now we're seeing a price crossover occurring right here at the 9-point exponential moving average. This blue line here is the 9-point exponential moving average. So we see a price crossover occurring right here. This is an excellent stock to buy. So I'll buy the stock right here. We'll buy the stock when the market opens. We'll place the stop loss around here. So if we are accurate, if this is support, then we can place the stop loss right around here. And the target profit. Well, the next resistance, well, this was an area of support. So if this area of support starts to act as resistance, the next resistance should be somewhere around here. This gives me a reward to risk ratio of 1.11, which is not bad. I do not think this area will become resistant. I think the next resistance is really this area here. So if we are accurate, and if this is the next resistance, this stock price might go quite up to here. But I don't think it will have this movement in one day. I think this can happen in a few days. So if you want to day trade, you can buy this stock here at this price. You can buy Silvergate Capital Corporation, SI, at this price here, and try to get some profits within a day. So right now it is trading at $91.92. You can buy it today, and within an hour or an hour and a half, you can get some capital gains. However, I don't think that if someone buys this stock, they should close this trade within the day. Why? Because I think this stock will go for a very big win. The mere fact that he had such great news in the sense that this company now form a partnership to produce Facebook's cryptocurrency. This is very good news. This news will last for a while. So even if somebody missed this trade today, I think next 3, 4, 5, 6 days will still be a very good time to enter a trade. So this could be a swing trade, or this could be a position trade. Someone could buy the stock here and ride this all the way up. So I expect this price to rise to about $178.49 or even higher. So this is a good trade. This is a good buy. This is how I trade stocks. I trade stocks based on certain criteria. So one, I look for the most active gainers. Criteria number two, I look for relative volume. Once there's a high relative volume, it suggests there's a high demand for the stock. Criteria number three, I look at the float. I want a stock with a low float. Why? Because if there's a low float, there should be a limited or a tight supply or inelastic supply. If there's an inelastic supply, then any increase in demand relative supply should cause a large increase in price. That's just basic economics. So after the third criteria, my fourth criteria is the news. I look at the news, and the news should give me a reason why this stock price is going up or why this stock price is going down. Here we can see there's good news regarding this company, Silvergate Capital Corporation. The good news for this company was the company has entered a deal to now produce Facebook's cryptocurrency. And because of this, this company's stock price should go up. So this is a very good opportunity to buy this company's stock. I expect good movement for this right up here. Now, I did some additional analysis right here. I look at the Bollinger Bands, I looked at the moving average, and I look at the relative strength index. These are technical analysis indicators. I use the Bollinger Bands for a Bollinger Bands bounce strategy. I use a moving average to help filter out a potential price crossover. A price crossover occurred right here. So a Bollinger bounce occurred here, a price crossover occurred here. And then the third criteria, there was a oversold condition in the sense that the RSI went below the number 30, suggesting that the asset is oversold, and then there should be some form of price correction. The asset is oversold here, and now the price is going up. So I think this is a very good trade. This is a very good trade to ride all the way up. So I will not, yes, you can open this trade, it should go in profit immediately, and you can close this trade before the end of the day, but this should be an excellent swing trade. This should be an excellent position trade. So what I recommend anyone should do is that enter this trade, go long, and wait for this profit to go, and wait for the price of this asset to go all the way up. So I expect the price of this asset to go from $91.92 all the way up to around $179.13. This is the kind of analysis that I do. So let's look at another stock. So let's look at Celsius Holdings. Celsius Holdings is up by 12%. ticker is CELH. So let's look at let's go on Finviz to see the relative volume. CELH relative volume less than 2. I don't like the relative volume. It doesn't show a very high demand. The float is all right. It's about half. It's actually less than half, because if the shares outstanding is 70 million and the float is 28 million, the shares is about half. The float is about half. Let's go to statistics. You see inconsistent with the informational float. The float is 30 million here. Shares outstanding is 72 million. So it's roughly about the same thing, and not too off, but always there's inconsistent information. But I don't like the relative volume. The relative volume wasn't really all that impressive. Let's look at the reason. Is there a reason why the stock price is moving up? Fitness and Drink Maker Celsius Holding reported first quarter 2021 results that showed volume and sales growth has continued to accelerate. Okay, so the company is profitable. So there's a reason why this company's stock should increase. So let's look at the charts. Still low like relative volume though. Let's look at the charts. All right, this is support. This is resistance. If support at active resistance, the closest resistance will be here. And this actually might be resistance. You know why? There's one touch and there's a second touch right here. So two touch suggests an area could be potential area of resistance or potential area of support. There's two touch here. So this suggests that at this point here and at this point here, there's some level of structure. If this level of structure holds, then when the price reaches this area here, $55 or somewhere around there, there should be some form of market correction. If you're buying this stock, the first target profit should be around $55. So let's look at it on trading view. So my indicators are already here. This is the RSI. Well, the stock didn't really go to oversold conditions because this is the RSI here. The lowest point the RSI reached was 35, which is still not oversold, because oversold is when the RSI drops below 30. But we see the Bollinger bounce occurring right here. The price of the asset went all the Bollinger Band, and then it went back here. So there's a Bollinger bounce occurring right here. It went all the Bollinger Band, and then went back inside. So this is a Bollinger bounce. And then we've seen a price crossover occurring right here. So what will I do? Because the company is profitable, because I have information or news on the company, and because the company just produced earnings suggesting that they are profitable, I would buy the stock. Yeah, this isn't really a perfect trade in the sense that the stock didn't really meet all my criteria. I'll place the stop loss just outside the Bollinger Bands around here. Target profit. This profit here, it should reach to 55. Let's see. For a day trade, you can wait for the price to reach 55. So the price right now is 51, and you can try to see if you get to 55. But if you're trying to get to 55, the stop loss is too wide. So for a short-term trade, this will be very risky. Why am I saying this? Because the first area of target profit should be around here, around 55. Somewhere around there, 55. However, if you have a stop loss here, the stop loss have to go just outside the Bollinger Band. So I mean, if it take a win, if it just go to $55 and then go back down, this will give us a small profit. But if this trade goes into a loss, this will give us a very wide loss. The loss will be greater than the potential win then. So this is not a very good reward to risk ratio, in the sense that the potential reward is small and the potential the potential loss is larger. So, I mean, if you want to position trade, meaning that if you want to buy and hold for a few days to a few weeks, this could be a good trade because we can wait for the price to go around here. However, if you want to day trade, this could be a risky trade. So if you want to day trade, I will not enter this trade. If I want to position trade or swing trade, position trade is when we hold for a few weeks going into a few months, and swing trade is when we hold for a few days going into a few weeks. If we want to swing trade, we can take this trade. But if you want to day trade, this is not an excellent day trade. So let's look at another stock, ABCL. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, alphabet stock. So this stock is up by 11%. Let's look at the relative volume. What the FinViz. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. So relative volume, the relative volume is less than 2. So it doesn't show very strong demand for this stock. The float, the shares outstanding is 590 million. However, the float is less than half. The float is only 178 million. So the float is relatively low. Float is 137 million versus the share outstanding. The shares outstanding is 270. So again, we see inconsistent information. So let's look at a reason for the stock to move. Let's look for the news. ABC partners with Geos to develop therapeutics to combat blindness caused by the diabetic retinopathy. All right, so we'll get some more commerce. Let's look at the charts. I don't really like this news. I find the news not really, all that flashy. News not really all that enticing. Let's look at the charts. So this was an area of support. This was an area of support. This was a potential area of support. Well, this is the first level of resistance. We can see the stock reach a level of resistance. The next level of resistance should be here. And then the next major level of resistance should be here. So let's go to trading view. I wouldn't buy this stock. Why? Because yes, we see a Bollinger bounce occurring right here. We see a price crossover occurring right here, but we missed the entry point. We were supposed to buy the stock at this point right here. We missed the entry point. Now, if you look at the RSI, this stock is going sideways. So this stock is not an oversold. Oversold is when you reach number 30. If it drops below, if the stock drops below number 30, the stock has gone into oversold conditions. If the stock price, if the RSI goes over the number 70, then the stock would have gone overbought conditions. So the RSI is not telling us to buy, the RSI is not telling us to sell. So the RSI is not giving us any, signal. We missed the entry point right here for the Bollinger bounce because a Bollinger bounce occurred right here. We missed the entry point for a crossover, price crossover, because a price crossover occurred right here. And we now see the stock gone to the outside of the Bollinger band. So this suggests that there should be some form of price correction. Now let's look at the stock over a longer period of time. So the stock price right now is $34.14, and the next resistance is $39.51. So the stock price could reach this area here, but I think it's too much of a risky trade. The mere fact that the stock price has gone outside the Bollinger Bands. I will not take this trade. Even though there was good information regarding this company's stock, there was positive news. I will not take this trade because I do not have a good entry point, in the sense that the correct entry point was right here. This was the correct entry point, but I missed the correct entry point. And plus the RSI is not giving us a buy signal. When you look at the other statistics like relative volume, the relative volume is not even greater than number 2. The float, well, the float looks low. The float looks like a limited supply, at least from here, from this point of view, at least from FinViz information, but there's not strong demand for the stock. And we want a strong demand to push the stock prices up. So I will not enter this trade. Although there's good news for the stock, I will not enter this trade. So let's look at another stock, International Game Technology. So this stock is up 10%. Let's search for the ticker, IGT. The relative volume is greater than number 2. Okay, the relative volume is high enough. The shares outstanding. The shares outstanding is 200 million. The float is 98 million. So the float is low enough. The float is less than half. Okay. So the relative volume is over number 2. So it meets one criteria. It meets the second criteria. And make the third criteria in terms of the float. Let's look at the reason. Is there a good reason for the stock to move? Okay, so International Game Technologies, IGT shares surged 16% after the company reported fourth quarter 2020 earnings of 38 cents per share, outpacing Zacks consensus estimate of 7 cents. So the company performed better than expected. Okay, so if you look at this information, there was news why the company price should go up. The company was profitable. Let's look at the charts. This was resistance here. The company broke resistance. The price of the stock broke resistance. Let's go on trade and view. So we see here the RSI has gone into overbought conditions. This is the RSI. This is 70. The RSI gone over 70, or at least it reached the area 70, meaning that the stock price has become too high. There's no Bollinger bounce on the downside. There's a Bollinger. Well, there may be a Bollinger bounce on the upside in the sense that the price of the asset gone outside of the Bollinger bands. There's no price crossover occurring right here. So will I buy the stock? No. Why? Because this is not the correct entry point. The correct entry point would have been to buy the stock at this point here, or to buy the stock at this point here. But this area is too high, and the first resistance is around here. Where is the next resistance? We can't even see the next resistance. The next resistance is so far in the back. We can't see the next resistance. So basically a breakout occurred at this point here, in the sense that the price of the asset break resistance, the price of the asset going up, and the price of the asset has now gone into overbought conditions. So the price of the asset is becoming too high. I think because the price of the asset gone outside the Bollinger Bands, and because of the RSI gone into overbought conditions, I think that a price correction could occur. So I will not buy this stock. I will not buy this with the expectation that the price could continue going up. Now it's a possibility the price could continue going up, but based on my technical analysis factors, it is telling me to do not buy the stock because this is not the correct entry point to buy the stock. So I will not buy the stock because of the technical analysis. Mind you, when you look at the fundamental analysis, it is telling you that the company is profitable and it should buy the stock because the company is profitable. However, I trade stocks based on both technical analysis and fundamental analysis. My fundamental analysis and my technical analysis must align. The fundamentals must tell me to buy the stock. The technical analysis must also tell me to buy the stock, and technical analysis must give me the correct entry point. When I look at the technicals, it is not giving me a good entry point. The technicals is not telling me this is a good time to buy the stock. Hence the reason why I'm not buying the stock. The technical analysis is not aligning with the fundamental analysis, and I'm not getting a good opportunity or not getting a good entry point to buy the stock. So I'm not going to buy the stock. This company is up by only 7%. I don't really find 7% is a strong enough price increase, but I'm looking at it nevertheless. LMND. We've seen a Bollinger bounce occurring right here in the sense that the price of the stock went outside the Bollinger Bands, but we're not seeing a price crossover occurring as yet. We're seeing that the price of the stock went into oversold conditions, meaning that the stock price went too low. So this is good news for me in the sense that the company's stock price was too low because it went into oversold conditions as evidenced by the RSI. There's a Bollinger bounce occurring right here. The next criteria for me to place an order to buy would be for the price of the asset to go here, where a price crossover would occur. So I would place this stock on my watch list in the sense that if I see during the day, if I see the stock price goes to this area here, about $72.65, I'll place an order to buy. So let me place a long position because I'll be looking at the stock. The technicals for the stock looking very good. The potential resistance is here. So, I mean, there's plenty of room for this asset to run. Let's look at some more factors regarding this stock. So let's look at let's go on for Invis. Let's look at the relative volume. The relative volume is high. There's strong demand. The relative volume is greater, the relative volume is 3.28. So this stock is trading 3.28 times greater than what it normally trades at. The float is 38 million. The shares outstanding is 56 million. So the float is less than the shares outstanding, meaning that there's less shares available for sale or for trading than the total amount of shares issued. So the float is lower than the shares outstanding. It is not as low as I would like, but I mean, I could still consider this. Let's look at the news. Lemonade stock was plunging. Okay, they reported a loss. Now, mind you, when you look at the charts right here, right? The chart is telling you all of this was a downtrend here. And for the day, the stock was among the most active gainers. So where the stock here? And the stock was right here. The stock was among the most active gainers in the sense that the stock price was up by 7%. Hence the reason why it was highlighted hence the reason why I picked up on it. It was among the most active gainers. The news doesn't look too good. LMND reported first quarter 2020 operating loss of 81 cents. Okay. I wonder if this report is accurate in the sense that it reported first quarter 2020 rather than first quarter 2021. This may be an error because we're in 2021 rather than 2020. Nevertheless, it reported a loss of 81 cents per share. Okay. Total revenues decline. So the company is not making as much profits as it should be making. Nevertheless, the price of the stock is going up. Well, nevertheless, there was some price correction. So you know what this analysis is telling me? The analysis is telling me the company is not performing as good as it should be performing or as it could be performing, and the reason why the stock price is declining. There was some correction. This looks like there's some form of short-term correction. The asset went into oversold conditions, meaning that there'll be an opportunity, meaning that there'll be a good time to buy. However, no, and I am not going to buy the stock yet until I start to see good news for the stock. So although the stock is trading high in volume, although the stocks is trading high in volume and the stocks are low float, I still not going to buy the stock yet because it has not met my final criteria of technical analysis in the sense that a price crossover has not occurred yet. Plus, there's not good news regarding the company at this point in time. So I think there'll be a very good opportunity to buy the stock, but not at this point in time. So what I'll do is I'll place the stock on my watch list. So I place a stock here. I'll place the stock on my watch list. So this is how we have to trade stocks. We have to perform analysis. We perform fundamental analysis. We perform technical analysis. So in regards to my fundamental analysis, the first criteria I look for stocks that are going up. I look for the most active gainers. That's criteria number one. The second criteria I look at is the relative volume. I look for a relative volume greater than number two. That suggests that there's strong demand for the stocks. The third criteria is the float. I generally prefer to trade stocks with a low float. Why? Because if there's a low float, then there should be a limited supply. So if there's any changes in demand relative to supply, it will cause a significant increase in price. So I tend to prefer stocks with a low float. The fourth criteria is the news. I look at the news. There must be a reason why the stock is moving in a particular direction. Note, when I have this four-step criteria, and not many stocks meet the criteria in the sense that they might be among the most active gainers, but then when you look at the relative volume, they don't have a good relative volume. When you look at the float, they don't have a good float. The float is too large. Or when you look at the news is not good enough. So it doesn't really tell us to buy this asset. After I perform the fundamental analysis, the next thing I do is I perform technical analysis. I look at the charts. I look at the trends. I look at different indicators. I prefer to use the Bollinger Bands, the relative strength index, and a moving average, an exponential moving average. I look for a Bollinger bounce. So I look for the price of the asset to go to the Bollinger Bands and touch the Bollinger Bands and bounce off, or go below the Bollinger Bands, then go back inside the Bollinger Bands. So I look for a Bollinger bounce. I look for oversold conditions with the RSI. So that's if the RSI goes below the number 30 or just touches the number 30 and then goes back up. And then my final criteria is a price crossover. I want the price of the asset to cross the 9-point exponential moving average. Once I have these criteria aligned, then I enter a trade to buy the asset. If I do not get these criteria aligned, then I do not enter the trade. I might put the stock on my watch list, so I monitor it over the next few days, or if I don't actually enter order to buy the stock. This is how I trade stocks. This is what you need to do to trade stocks. You need to perform fundamental analysis. You need to perform technical analysis. Now, there are many traders trade stocks and it only apply technical analysis. But when you apply only technical analysis and you ignore the fundamentals, you ignore the reason why the stocks are moving in a particular direction. And the technical analysis might suggest that the stock should go in a particular direction. However, if the fundamentals, the reason, the demand and supply economics are not up to par, it can cause the price of the stock can move in an adverse direction to what you want. Hence the reason why I recommend that traders and investors incorporate both technical analysis and fundamental analysis when they are trading stocks and when they're trading any assets on the financial market. So we covered a lot of content in this lecture. So I will end this lecture here. This is Dr. Don Charles. Thank you for listening and stay tuned for more.